Patricia, I think a lot of us know about the name UN Environment Program, but not quite clear on what the objective is, especially around food waste.
Okay, well, you've already said this morning that food is a big deal on the GW campus. Well, food is a big deal with the United Nations, and it's also a big deal with the United Nations Environment Program. I see one of my colleagues here from the Food and Agriculture Organization. We have many programs and organizations within the UN that focus on food and food issues. Very important stuff. A word about UNEP, since you said that many people have heard of UNEP but maybe aren't quite sure about the mission. We are the environmental authority of the United Nations. We work this year very closely with our colleagues at the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change. And I know you had mentioned that it would be helpful to underscore the importance of food waste in the climate change arena. I understand, and again, people here can slam me down with their facts because some of you are into the detail of the statistics, but I understand that food ends up being the #1 item in our landfills. And when it decomposes, it generates methane, which is essentially a greenhouse gas on steroids. I mean, a very potent greenhouse gas. So food waste does make a significant contribution. You stole my thunder with your statistic about if food waste were a nation, it would be number what, 3?
3.
In the world in terms of emissions. And everybody in the United States focuses very much, and rightfully so, on electricity generation as a source of greenhouse gas emissions. Well, if you take the upper end of the estimates of what food waste emits, it comes pretty darn close to the electricity sector in terms of CO2 emissions. So that's a big deal. The other reason that UNEP is very engaged on this issue is not only from a climate perspective, but other resources. Our land resources, our water resources. Producing food creates uses natural resources. And so wasting food wastes natural resources. And that is something that we're very mindful of. UNEP has a big program on sustainable consumption and production. And an important component of that program is addressing food waste on the consumption end. I run the regional office for North America for UNEP. We're right here in Washington, and we've picked just a handful of issues that we really want to try to elevate and focus on in North America. And one of them is food waste. North Americans have a problem with food waste. At the same time, we also have, maybe you have a different panel on this, we have an obesity epidemic going on in North America. 1/3 of adults, according to the Center for Disease Control, are obese in this country. So you kind of have to think about how all of this interrelates, and I think there are many ways to go about tackling this. We're working closely with our friends at the World Resources Institute on some of these issues, but I hope that the panel can have a discussion about how we can go about dealing with some of this as well.
Terrific.
Anyway, thank you for the invitation today.
Sure.